Okay, so the sports team that we'll be using today is the Dallas Mavericks, which will be intertwining with the organization and the leadership traits that we will be talking about tonight or today. So I will start first. The autocratic leadership uh, is the one that I will be using today. And autocratic leadership is a leadership style characterized by individual control over all decisions and little input from group members. They typically make choices based on their ideas and judgment and rarely accept advice from followers. The current head coach of the Dallas Mavericks is Rick Carlisle. He's arguably been recognized as the best head coach his franchise has ever had, while also being the guy to lead this team to the only NBA championship back in 2011. There's a very good reason why Rick Carlisle has been able to sustain success with this team for 13 years now, and that is his autocratic leadership to achieve the amount of success in his coaching career. This approach has shown the players how they want something done and expect that athlete to perform a technique a certain way. Very rarely, if you ever go or watch a Mavs game in person, do you ever see Rick not in control of his players. This type of method that he's been using his whole career believes that this is the only way to succeed, and it's very hard to disagree. This leadership style, however, hasn't gone down well with every player that he's coached. Current Mavs owner Mark Cuban had this to say about him. Rick is a lot more touchy-feely, just a lot lower key. He's always demanding and detail-oriented, and Rick is smart and knows how to connect with his players. This was, however, questioned by former NBA player Kendrick Perkins, who made a quote of his own by saying, "That was for sure the first compliment that I've heard from anybody about Rick Carlisle. Former players that I have talked to played for him have never said anything good about him." If you look at the current popular head coaches in sports today that have used the same autocratic leadership style approach that Rick Carlisle has used, you would see that they have all achieved success in different ways. For example, Bill Belichick, who's been the head coach of the Patriots for 21 years now, has won 6 Super Bowl rings with them. Can you imagine Bill going to a team meeting with 5 different game plans before a game for an upcoming game, then asking his team to vote on the one that they will think would be most successful? How about the great Coach K, who has coached the Duke Blue Devils for 41 years now and can go down as the greatest college basketball head coach this game has ever seen? Can you even fathom him asking his players to vote on who makes the starting lineup for each basketball game? Of course not, because sports are based on the need to perform specific actions at a specific time. So, in conclusion, when what really makes a good leader in sports, to me, it's someone who keeps team members motivated and optimistic that positive outcomes will come. If I'm going by that definition, then I absolutely think Ricardo is a good leader. Uh, One of the best traits that he does possess is the ability to motivate his players, whether they're getting blown out by 30 or it's a close game. Sure, how he coaches using an autocratic leadership approach might not be something that everybody loves, but he knows how to get positive results out of it. Having an autocratic leadership as a head coach in sports today can honestly be a blessing in disguise. So I'm going to give it to Hallie as she will talk to you guys about transformational leadership pertaining to the Dallas Mavericks.
Okay. Yes. So mine is transformational leadership in sports. Transformational transformational leadership. Transformational leadership is a leadership style in which leaders inspire, encourage, and motivate their subjects and employees to create change and imitate to help them grow and shape the future success of themselves and the organization in general. This style does not make any room and space for micromanagement, as the subjects are trusted to take authority over decisions and what they are doing. This leadership style is one of the best desired styles in sports industry, and most leaders who have embraced this style put their subjects' motives, needs, and motives before their own. In sports, as observed in current times, change is inevitable as it requires survival and adaptations in the ever-changing sports industry. Every season and year, there's a personal, administrative, coaching, and rule changes within the sports arena. And organizations and leaders are expected to foresee these while in charge. As a transformational leader and different from other leaders and leadership styles, the change needs to have some characteristics and qualities. First, the person needs to encourage the positive and motivational development of subjects or players. He or she needs to exemplify moral standards with the sports industry and encourage the players. The in charge also has foster an ethical environment for the players with clear priorities, values, and bars. Fourthly, the person has to build a sports culture by encouraging players to move from self-interest to a common goal mindset. He or she also needs to create and emphasize cooperation, open communication, and authenticity. Lastly, providing mentoring and coaching allows the player to make decisions and take ownership of roles and tasks. These qualities will determine whether the person in charge is a good leader or not, and if the leadership is destructive or constructive. With increased transformational leaders in the sports industry, companies and organizations can maximize retention rates and create environments that adapt and accept change through adapting players to change and create depth within the industry. In return, it will produce more positive organizational outcomes. Several studies have shown transformational leadership in sports has led to more positive organizational results, such as commitments, satisfactions, and perceived leadership effectiveness. The studies have also shown that transformational leadership has led to involvement by players, higher levels, identifications, and attachments to sports and organization. This has created the need for transformational leaders by most sports companies to increase the effectiveness in leadership while lowering turnover at the same time. It is also crucial to note that 4 dimensions of transformational leadership that sports industry have taken in current times. They include inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, individual consideration, and idealized influence. Inspirational motivation describes the leader who motivates the players to commit the individual and organizational visions within the sport areas. They create team spirit, attain goals, and increase market growth, career development, and increase revenue for both player and companies sponsoring the sport at large. On the other hand, idealized influence describes a leader who is exemplary role model of his or her players. Leaders with idealized influence are respected and trusted by players to make a good decision for the sport in general. Intellectual stimulation describes a leader who encourages creativity and invitation through challenging the apparent and norms belief of views of others. They promote problem solving and critical thinking to make player, brands, and supporting companies better. Individual consideration on its level describes leaders who act as an advisor and coaches to players. Leaders' individual consideration encourage players to reach goals and help the player, both player and the organization. Leadership is a complex topic, and it plays a vital role in a team and organization in broad ways. Transformational leadership in the sport industry cares about the motives, needs, and values of the followers and tries to make them better leaders of tomorrow. This is critical and necessary in the field industry where change is spontaneous, and knowing how to accept, adapt to change within a team makes transitions more successful and positive. Transformational leaderships to help understand and know each of the players beyond their surface. Transformational leadership in sports also helps the overall success and trumps of the players and the industry. The leadership style can also be applied in a group one or one-on-one situation where the player and leaders are transformed to enhance individual job performance. The overall discussion about above can be related to the Mavericks. The owner has stood out to be one of the great transformational leaders in basketball. He visions to achieve what has never been achieved before. He is influential, invitation, daring, direct, and with high tolerance for taking chances that have made him earn respect in basketball. He believes that he doesn't have to wear on a magic leadership clock when heading to work. He is portrayed strong proponents of objectivity, integrity, and justice, which makes him trusted even by his followers. And I'm going to hand it off to Matthew for toxic leadership in sports.
Toxic leadership is the worst type of leadership that anyone can be a part of. Toxic leadership is very abusive and harmful to the group that the leader. A toxic leader anything it takes to get what he or she wants and do whatever it takes to. They strike fear into the group to get them to do what they want. This Hitler worked and stroked to all of his followers and was very effective. In the end, all toxic there is a flaw that winds up being the downfall of everything that toxic leader worked so hard to get. As previously stated, it was effective strategy, but at what cost? The Dallas Mavericks are an NBA team that does this type of leadership. Mark Cuban, the owner of the Mavericks, is doing a great job keeping in check and making sure Rick Carlisle does not go down this path of darkness to keep everyone safe without abuse. This is great for the players because it's hurt and the Mavericks can set up to win and succeed to go out and win the NBA trophy. With a great leader, Luka Doncic, along with leadership of Cuban and Carlisle, the Mavericks make it to the top and stay there. Cuban, he puts in work to help the team in any way. He's just not just sitting in the office paying bills. He is out doing what he can to get his team going. There are many advantages to this type of leadership. The only true advantage of this leadership is that it shows results. If the leader uses this leadership and doesn't produce results, then it's not effective at all. It would not produce results if fans will not accept this type of leadership. If the Mavericks organization were to use this type of leadership in any way, there would be no way of them getting anything done. People don't like to be abused or forced to do something to get good results. The disadvantages are that no one would get anything done and everyone turns on the leader. None of this would be good because if your team is hurt, then negative results would become more frequent. No work would get done because there would be a lot of disagreements and arguing over how they're being treated. As a result, the whole organization would fall apart and the team would turn on the leader. This would be the downfall of the toxic leadership, and not only that, but the downfall of the organization in general. Look at Hitler and his Nazi army. He was on top of the world, then bigger and better army came in and took them down, and his empire fell. All empires are meant to fall at some point in time. Overall, toxic leadership more than likely will not be the way to go. The Mavericks need to continue to do what they do and how they go about it. They don't need toxic leadership. No one needs this leadership because of how harmful it is. Cuban has worked hard to get the Mavericks where they are, and if toxic leadership comes into play, this would be the ultimate downfall of the whole Mavericks organization.
And then I'm going to cover
Oh.
servant leadership within the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks have a well-structured organization in place. It starts at the top with Mark Cuban and trickles all the way down from their head coach Rick Carlisle to their all-star players in Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis. A key attribute of the Dallas Mavericks organization is the leadership amongst all members of the organization. The front office for the Dallas Mavericks is often overlooked and taken for granted, but they are a major contributing factor in the organization's success. The front office is led by none other than Mark Cuban himself, and that is the reason why the Mavericks have had the amount of success that they have under their years with Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is one of the better owners in the NBA, largely due to the exceptional amount of leadership he provides within the organization. It is also true that Mark Cuban's franchise is so successful due to the fact that Cuban presents a very unique style of leadership. Could you scroll down a little bit? Thank you. So servant leadership within the Dallas Mavericks. The primary objective of servant leadership is first to serve one's peers, then to lead them. Servant leadership is different from the other approaches to leadership because it emphasizes the ideal of service in the relationship between the leader and followers. Servant leadership has a direct correlation with the Dallas Mavericks organization. Rick Carlisle is the best example of a servant leader that the Mavericks have on their staff/roster. Coach Carlisle represents and displays every characteristic of a servant leader. It is apparent that the Dallas Mavericks' success comes from good leadership starting at the top, and I believe that right beside Mark Cuban's leadership is Rick Carlisle's. Coach Carlisle brings a serve first mentality to the Mavericks locker room and eventually has led the players to play at a high level of NBA basketball. Many NBA fans and supporters often overlook Coach Carlisle's presence when they talk about the Dallas Mavericks. Although Luka Doncic has been playing phenomenal basketball since entering the league, he still needed the leadership that Coach Carlisle and Mark Cuban provided to become the player he is today. The Dallas Mavericks have some of the best leaders in their front office across the NBA. Other important servant leaders that play for the Mavs, one would be Boban Marjanovic. Boban is a bench player for the Mavs and still manages to impact the whole team by the positive energy he brings to the arena night in and night out. Although Boban has played few minutes for the Mavericks this season, he is the first one off the bench at a timeout to high five and congratulate his teammates. Boban cares more about the team and the organization as a whole rather than he cares about his own desires and wishes, which perfectly depicts a servant leader. Players like Boban and coaches like Rick Carlisle are why the Mavericks organization operates at such a high level. The organization's success is largely due to the exceptional amount of leadership they have within the building.
Okay.
And then I'm going to pass it back to Victor.
Okay. And so all the leadership traits that we did today, that me, Hallie, Matthew, and Austin did today, all intertwine with the Dallas Mavericks and how the organization is run today and how they will be ran from now into the future.